Hi, my name is Jesse Bourne, and today I'm going to show you how I sharpen my Japanese Kanna plane. So I'm going to be shaving off Yosegi very soon for my puzzle chess, and to do that what you need is a very good Kanna plane. I already have this thing pretty sharp, but I just want to tune it up extremely sharp so that I can get some really good shavings this time around. So I figured I'd just film another video showing how I do it. A Japanese plane is made out of redwood for the body, and then the blade is made of two different kinds of steel. They'll put like raw iron in the top, and then they'll laminate on the back a very hard steel for cutting. So this is going to be a super hard wood because, or super hard steel, I mean, because this is going to be your cutting edge right here. So the nice thing is this softer metal will absorb a lot of the vibrations, and then the hard steel is going to cut through the wood much better and hold an edge much better. This is just kind of a basic Japanese chisel, and you can see the steel lamination here quite well. So you can see that there's that softer steel, and then laminated onto the back of that is the very hard cutting steel. If you're sharpening this by hand, like of course I do and 99% of everybody else does, you won't have to sit there for as long grinding away that super hard steel. You only have to do a little bit of the hard steel. Most of it is actually soft steel. Before I even put this blade on any kind of sharpening stone, let me just show you how sharp this thing is. So this thing right now is sharp enough to take the hairs right off of my arm without any kind of effort. And so that's a good sign, of course. That still doesn't mean that it's super sharp. We need to go even sharper for shaving off Yosegi. So I'm just gonna tune it up a bit here, give it some polishing, and then hopefully we'll be scary sharp and ready to shave off the Yosegi. So the first thing that you're going to need is a flat surface. Just gonna wipe it off quick. So let me explain why I'm getting out the surface plate. Because I did purchase some Sharpen water stones for the purpose of sharpening the Kanna blade, but I just simply did not get a good enough result out of the stones. I'm not sure exactly why that is. Now I did read on some forum or somewhere that the Sharpen stones are just simply not as good as a really good quality Japanese stone. So these are the kind of stones that I was using. This is a 5,000 grit, this is a 12,000 grit. I think it's a 10 or 12,000. And obviously they're pretty dusty right now just because I haven't used them in a while. This is a diamond stone, and you want to register flat on these, of course, so that they're super flat before you go to work. But though I was able to get the plane sharp with these stones, I just was not able to get it as sharp as the way that I'm about to show you. I made this little jig right here. I didn't take the design anywhere from anything. I just figured it out myself. I put these magnets on here, and these are 1/2-inch rare earth magnets. What's incredibly crucial, whether you're sharpening this by hand or whether you're sharpening it with a jig, is that this surface stays flat and it doesn't vibrate. Okay, we don't want any rocking going on, because what happens when it rocks is it registers different pitches on the tip of the blade, and it's basically what's going to go on right in the, if you magnify this way up, it's just going to be breaking some of your edge because you're rocking it back and forth, and that was obviously going to make the cutting edge dull if you have a jagged break in there. And it's just so what you really need to do is kind of I like to get a white sheet of paper, put it behind my blade like this, and then just eyeball it. And you can usually see any kind of nicks in the blade, and you can see how straight and even of a line it is across the blade. And what that tells you is how consistent your edge is. You want a very consistent edge. Some people will get this in like some sort of optical magnifier, and they'll be able to look at that edge very finely, blow it way up and then see if there's any kind of breakage in the edge. Super helpful. That's more helpful than, figuring out how many hairs it can take off your arm, or how, because that will only tell you how sharp it is up to a point, and you need it sharper than that. I have a few different kinds of sanding grit here. I have 400, 600, and 1500. I'm just going to go with the 1500 because this blade doesn't really need to be brought up from, it doesn't have chips in it or other things. So I'm just going to go with the 1600. I'm going to lay this flat on here, make sure nothing's dusty, make sure there's no grit underneath that. And I'm going to bring it to the edge here, and I'm just going to clamp it. Gotta make sure you clamp it. Okay, then here's the tricky part too. When you put this on here, you don't want to like bang your edge, okay? You want to be careful with the blade. So now what you need to do, I'm gonna make sure that this is nice and flat on the surface. Looking pretty good. I like to wet down the sandpaper because you want to irrigate the sandpaper. Not good with the technical terms. So this water will just help to carry around the debris and help to free it up so that the sandpaper doesn't get clogged, basically. So anyways, this is as simple as it is, right? And it's super simple to make a jig like this. And obviously you'll get super consistent results. You won't get a lot of that rocking back and forth. That's all eliminated with this. So I don't see very many downsides to this. But I'm sure eventually, if this video is up long enough, somebody will tell me what's wrong with it. I don't know what to say. Looks like we're making decent progress. So at this point, let's check it again. Okay, now I can see where I was sanding, and I want to make sure that that I was getting up to the edge. And I can see that my pitch was a little bit off. So what I'm going to do, I'm not sure which pitch is mine. Okay, I see. So the two most important things about to get this thing sharp is that you have a super flat, polished back and a super flat, polished bevel. Okay, and when those two meet up, they are going to be sharp to the degree to which they were consistently polished. Okay. So obviously I'm just starting with the bevel just because I know my back is already pretty much flat, but I'm gonna address the back after I'm done with the bevel. Usually it's the other way around, but it doesn't really matter when you're just kind of grazing this just barely to get it up to super sharpness again like I am. I'm going to polish this back now. So what I do for polishing the back is you really want to make sure, because these backs are relieved, so you don't want to just grind into the relief. You don't want to cover a whole wide area when you're sanding this back. You just want to focus on this edge around here, okay? And also with a Kanna plane, sometimes you would tap it out and stuff, but this one doesn't need tapping, so I'm not going to go into that. So basically I just bring it up very close to the edge here, and I just push it back and forth, making sure that I'm keeping nice and flat on the block. Now listen, this can ruin your edge if you don't do this right. You want to make sure that that back stays flat. And the degree to which it is flat is the degree to which your blade will be sharp. You got to be very careful when you're doing stuff like this. Don't do this at home, kids. Yeah, now I'm just going to hit it a little bit more before I switch to the polishing. Oh yeah, that thing's just crazy. Crazy sharp. Okay, now I'm going to switch to the polishing. So now we introduce the third ingredient, cardboard. So what I use cardboard for is polishing the blade. And now some people obviously do not, some people are very anti cardboard or polishing or leather or anything like that. But here's the thing, the nice thing is I kept this in this jig. So when I put this on this polish, to polish it, I know that it is going to be the right angle and I'm not folding over the edge. Because what happens when you put this on leather and you start to polish it, if you have it not in the right angle, it's gonna just curl over your edge. Your edge is so thin, okay, and it's so fine, it's so fragile that if you start polishing it, it just kind of bends over and then you have a dull edge. So you don't want to do that. So all I do is just, I don't take it off the jig, very important, and I just go back and forth like this. And that same angle that I grounded at is the same angle that's getting polished right now. And you can also use compounds, polishing compounds like this. And I'll just rub that onto the cardboard. Now you want to start with a nice piece of cardboard. Don't use a piece of junk that's all warped and all over the place. Put this polishing compound on there, and that's just going to polish up your edge. Super, super nice. It's going to be a mirror finish, and if it's not a mirror finish, you might have problems. Now I'm just going to polish the back. I'll just put it like this, drag it across. Okay, so now this thing is super de-duper sharp and ready to go back in the Kanna. If you can see the cutting edge here, it has a mirror finish on it. It's a super fine polish, and that's what I was looking for. So I got that. The edge is nice and consistent. It is super sharp. It pops the hairs off my arm with no trouble at all, no hesitation. So, you know, I can only guess that I'm ready to make some yosegi now. We'll see in a few days whether or not this actually works and whether this plane is ready to pull off the shavings. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you got some good tips. If you have any advice, please leave that down in the comments below. Have a good night, and I'll see you again later.